Hi everyone, Jen Dubell here for Country Craft Creations, and I have created a fun little accordion fold folio uh, that is made with the Spring Awakenings exclusive paper collection from Country Craft Creations. And I just want to do a quick walkthrough of the finished folio, and then I will have a tutorial following the walkthrough showing you how to make the base, the accordion pages, as well as some of the ways to add inserts and embellish your pages. So the outside, this was done. This measures, when completed, this is a 5¼ by 5½, and I have used a magnet closure on this and some of the Graphic 45 collection papers, paper flowers, as well as some die cut leaves to go along with that. And I used the boxwood My Colors cardstock as my mats on the flap, the front, on my little spines, as well as the back cover. So the magnet closure is concealed underneath the paper here, as well as under this border here. And when you open this, you get this wonderful vertical pocket here, diagonal pocket, excuse me. And I've just embellished that with a die cut here and added a couple of inserts. And like I said, in my tutorial, I will show you how I created some of my inserts. The rest is up to your imagination. There are many, many types of inserts that can be made. These are a couple of tags that I created using a die and then used my scraps for those. Now, the inside of this, the base part of this album, doesn't look very large. However, being an accordion style, as you can see, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Flip this over, 8, 9, 10, 11 pages total. And then, not to be counted out, you have lots of pockets, lots of tuck spots, and the 12th page, even though it is flattened up against the surface, is actually a double pocket page. So we have this fun little tag that can be used as a photo mat on the back, and I've used one of the lovely die cut pieces to create the little pull, which shows on the outside of the album as well. Here's another instance of a different type of insert. This one is just a shorter one. Add a little paper on the inside, and I've actually taken the cover sheet of the Spring Awakenings set, and it shows all of the papers in a line, as you can see here, and I have utilized that piece as well by cutting it and then adding one of the die cuts to make a belly band. This page here, I have a belly band that goes vertical, and I've created this fun little insert. Just lots of fun little tuck spots, and this is just a photo mat. More of those wonderful little die cuts. Just a lot of things can be done with this. Here's another fun little insert. You can put pictures in this. You could add gift cards to this. There's just lots of fun things that you can do with this. You can even, if you want, you can add tea bags in here, a little treat, and give this as an Easter gift. And you can virtually do this with any paper collection and for any occasion. So that is a walkthrough of the album completed. Next, I have a tutorial on the base, the accordion pages, as well as some tips and tricks on your decorating and making some inserts. So this is the Spring Awakenings, and I did show this page by page in my design team haul video on my YouTube channel. So This just has some really vintage Easter imagery, and I love this paper, the colors, everything. And I thought a good backdrop for this would be an ivory cardstock, and I'm going to be using an 80-pound cardstock for these folios, just because I like the flexibility of it. And it also does not crack. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to show you exactly how to cut. Now I will show you, this is one that I've already started. And then this one here is one that I had done for Graphic 45. And this is the same style that we will be making. So this is an accordion pocket folio. So this will come out as you see here. And it has pockets and inserts and just a lot of really fun stuff. These are really fun to make for any occasion. Like I said, this one is going to be Easter. So to start, we want to make our base, and that's what I really want to show you how to do start to finish. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our ivory 80-pound cardstock, and you don't have to use 80-pound. You could use a lighter weight. Just be aware that there's a lot of joining paper unless you have the longer 12 by 24 paper. If you have that, that would be perfect for a project like this because you won't need as much joining of papers. So first off, I want to cut this to 5.5 by 11, and I want to show you this on camera because a lot of people would just cut 5.5 and cut it off. But this is how you can get more out of an 8.5 by 11 sheet. So here's my 5.5. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut that. Then I'm going to take this and cut it down to that 11. Well, I'm not going to cut it to 11. It is 11. So now you have that. This little piece that is left over just happens to measure 3 inches. So we are going to cut this down as well to that 5.5. So we want this 3 inch by 11 inch to be cut down to 5.5 by 3. So this is going to give us our flap. As you can see here, this is the only piece that's going to have to be joined. So that's your first 2 pieces. So we have a 5.5 by 11 and a 3 by 5.5. And for some, so now we're going to take 3 pieces of the same cardstock and we're going to cut these to 5. And keep all of your scraps and bits because they can be used throughout the folio for pockets, tuck spots, hinges, all kinds of things. So like I said, we need 3 of these. And I'm just cutting these with you so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. Okay, so now I have 3 5-inch by 11 inch. And I have my base piece, which is 5.5 by 11, plus an extra, 3 by 5.5 piece that goes on this one. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to put away my cutter. And I am going to set all of my scraps, because I will save these, off to the side. Now I'm going to pull in my scoreboard. And now what I'm going to do, before I ever even join this, I'm going to put that base piece, which is our 5.5 by 11, and I am going to score this at 5 1/4. So we're going to score at 5 1/4. And then we're going to score again at 5 3/4, and that is going to give us a 1/2 inch spine right here. And that's also going to leave us with that 5 1/4 at the end. Now what I want to do is I want to add this 5.5 by 3 inch wide piece. And I'm just going to use a tape gun. You can use score tape or anything you like for this. Just going to run that down as straight as possible. I'm actually going to close my blind over here. Seems to be reflecting a little too much light. Okay. And then we're just going to bring that 3 by 5.5 inch piece in, line it up. I use my scoreboard for this because it really helps lining up that paper. And that will give us this. Now what you want to do, now that you have that joined, is this needs to be at the 11 mark. So we just want to make sure, and it's going to be right along where we just put that score tape. So just be cautious when you do this score line at the 11, and then you're going to go ahead and score it again at 11.5. And this will become the outer portion of our folio. Next, you want to take a corner rounder. This one is the We Are Memory Keepers, and I use the 10 millimeter. And I just want to round all of the corners that are showing on this portion. So now we have our base. Next, we will make the accordion for the inside. Okay, so now we're going to make the insert, the middle portion, which is our pages. And that is the 3 pieces that we cut to 5 by 11. These 3 here. And I will show you what to do. This is going to make this nifty piece here, as you can see. You get quite a lot of pages, and these will end up being 5 by 5 with rounded corners. And how you want to do these is we want to put one of our 5 by 11s on our scoreboard, score it at 5, and score it at 10, and leave it at that. Bring the other one in, score it at 5, score it at 10. Whoops. And then the last one, score it at 5 and score it at 10. And as you can see, you have an inch of space at the end. So you could technically cut these to 10.5 if you prefer. I did not do that when I just showed you these. So I'm just going to score again at 10.5. And then I'm going to bring in my, you don't have to score it. I'm just reminding myself. I'm going to bring my cutter back in. And I'm going to cut these all down to 10.5. Because you don't need a whole inch of space at the end. And I probably should have just told you that at the beginning. Cut them to 10.5. Probably would be a little simpler. Okay, easy peasy. So now we bring our scoreboard back in because I like to have this when I do any kind of taping. Now what we're going to do is we're going to join these. And how we are going to do that is you're going to put your first one down, add some score tape or use a tape gun like I'm doing. Either way, it works just fine. Just make sure that the tape, if you're using a runner, is not hanging off the edges. Then bring in the side that does not have the score line. So you want the flush side. And we're just going to put this here. You want to line it up so that it's on the very edge of that score line. You don't want to go over your score line because this still needs to be able to bend. So as you can see, our score line is over here, and that keeps this at 5 inches. And then we're going to flip it around, and we're going to do the exact same thing with this one. Actually, you don't need to flip it around. You can just do it this way. So we're just going to do that again. So this next length, add your tape. You could also do this with glue. It would work as well. I'm going to put this on my scoreboard. Line it up. And just want to make sure it's just to the right of that score line. I don't want to go over my score line. I also don't want all this excess goop on here. And then as you can see, you have this little extra hanging over. And if you wanted to make that longer, you could. I'm going to have a pocket inside mine, a sideways pocket that will be gusseted. So I need this 1/2 inch down here. I'm actually going to fix that. It's not quite scored good enough. So this will become a pocket gusset for the back piece. So then you're just going to lay this out like this. I know you cannot see it all on the camera. And then we're going to fold. So grab your first score line and fold to the right. Just make sure all of your paper is lining up. And then go ahead and burnish. The next score line will fold to the left. And just like I said, watch your paper as you're folding before you burnish and make sure that that paper is all lining up with each other, because this will be in a book, and we want to make sure that everything is straight. And sometimes when we join paper together, it doesn't always go our way, at least in my experience. Okay. So now we have our accordion, okay? Last thing we need to do with this before doing any embellishing on it, I'm not quite sure what happened here. Oh, it's stuck. I need to get this excess adhesive. If you don't have one of these adhesive removers, I highly recommend them. It will even get the adhesive bumps or sticky stuff off of your scoreboard. If you happen to get some on there, it gets it right off of there for you. But because I don't want everything sticking together, I'm just going to go ahead and get that off there. So now you're probably asking, okay, Jen, well, how did you get all those corners rounded? And some of you may know how, once something is folded, how to corner round. I am not going to use this, and I don't recommend it, because thick paper in this doesn't seem to work as well. I'm actually going to pull in a crocodile that is here somewhere. Just need to figure out what it is. And I'm going to have it. Now, this is the normal We Are Memory Keepers crocodile. These are a little stronger than that little one. So this will work on the 1/2 inch. So first I'm just going to go around and round the corners that are by themselves, being the ends. Just do both ends. Actually, this one doesn't. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I do need to do this one. Even though that's going to be a gusset, I still want the rounded. So then what you want to do is fold your first piece and act as if it's one piece of paper. We're just going to round it. And as you can see, when you do that, and pull it apart, you get those. And like I said, many of you probably already know this, but there are people who watch my channel that are learning as they go, and they may not know that. Go to the next one and just fold every spot that has corners and chomp them. And there we go. Oh, no, I got one more. Easy peasy to forget, that's for sure. So now, as you can see, all of these, when they fold out, are completely rounded. And it all folds up nicely. And this will go right inside of our base, like so. So this will sit inside of here, and it will open like so. And then this will close over it. And we're going to do a magnet closure on that. So I'll be back with more on the decorating. I will tell you to prepare. You have a total of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 pages to cover. Because this one is actually adhered inside, you will only have to cover one side of it. So I have cut out 11 pieces of 4 7/8 by 4 7/8 paper. from the beautiful Spring Awakenings collection. And I have inked all of the edges of those. I've rounded all the corners the same way that I did the book. And I've inked all the edges with Vintage Photo Distress ink, giving them a little bit more vintage. And this top one will most likely become my cover. I did cut 12. Also, if you want to mat yours, if you want all of your pages to have mats, I'm not doing that because I use the 80-pound cardstock. So to save on the bulk and be able to add some pockets and some different inserts, I'm not going to mat the pages. I'm just going to use this beautiful paper by itself. I will probably mat the cover and the back and the spines, but I will not be matting all of the pages. If you are matting, just keep in mind that these are 4 7/8 by 4 7/8, and our pages are 5 by 5. So if you were going to mat, you would make your mats 4 7/8 by 4 7/8, and then these would be 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. Okay, so I will be back with more. Okay, so now that we have, I actually went off camera and put all of my pages, all of my decorative papers, the Spring Awakenings, on the accordion. Remember to leave that back one empty. You don't need to put paper on that because it's going to be placed inside of here. So what I did do is I took a piece of the green paper that has the script on it, and I cut that down to, let me grab my measurements here, this piece as well as this piece, these two here, these are going to be 5 1/8 by 5 3/8. And this middle one is the only one where there's no corners that we won't round. I've also gone ahead and distress inked with Vintage Photo around that one, as well as this one. Now for this one, you want to round the two outside corners here. And I just really like that little imagery of the kids playing with the Easter eggs and the chickens. And those will go there. Then if you take a look at your papers, if you're doing this with this collection, that is, this same sheet that this and this comes from has this on the back side, these gorgeous stripes that go around like a border. And I've just taken one of those and cut it off of the sheet that I used, basically a scrap, because I don't like to waste paper. And I've cut 2 strips that measure 3/8 by 5 1/8, and these are going to cover our internal spine pieces here. So I have this already laid down, and I'm going to go ahead and lay down my 2 little spine pieces. I need to actually ink these. I did not do that yet. Go ahead and put some ink on these edges. And inking, again, is totally optional. Not everybody likes it. I usually will do it with any papers like these that look vintage. The Vintage Photo or any of the browns of the distress inks just adds that little touch of more vintage vibe. And I'm a lover of all things vintage. So when I make folios and cards and I use any kind of paper that looks vintage, I do like to ink my edges, but totally optional. You can do whatever you like. You can ink them in a different color even if you prefer. So I'm just going to add glue to the backs of these and adhere them. I'm going to just line it up with the bottom and top of this piece here that I've already glued down. And in case you didn't catch the measurement of that inside piece there, it is 5 1/8 wide by 5 3/8 tall. Go ahead and put this one on. And make sure that when you adhere these, that they go inside of your score lines. You don't want to overlap your score lines and cause any problem with movement. So then, again, with this scrap, I kind of looked at where my script was on here and cut this little piece out. And this piece measures 2 1/8 by 5 3/8. And I'm just going to ink that up. And I'm not going to adhere this one yet. I'm just going to ink it and show you because there's going to be a magnet placed underneath of this to close the book. So this will lay on here like so. And as you can see, the text all lines up. So I'm just going to set that aside because I know it goes there. And we're going to work on this portion. So again, I've cut that piece with the image of the children and rounded the two outside corners. And this is our front inside cover. Going to adhere that. Again, make sure that you do not go over your score line here on the side of your 1/2 inch spine there. That on there as straight as you can. And then I've taken a bit of the ivory paper, another sheet of that heavy cardstock, and I have made an angled pocket. And there are many tutorials out there for angled pockets. I will tell you the simplest way is to take the piece of paper that you have that you are adding your pocket to, measure the height and the width, and then you want to have, if you want your pocket to be able to hold things, you're going to want some 1/2 inch score lines, gussets for it. If you don't need those and you're just going to slip a piece of paper in there, then you can just cut it exact and then cut it at an angle in half. I would like to put a little additional space in mine for the insert that I plan to put in here. So we are just going to glue this on just the edges of those flaps. And I am going to place that right on, and I've also, as you can see, rounded my corners. And I just want to line this up with the paper that's on here. And then I am going to burnish it down up against that paper. And on the inside, I will run a bone folder. And now, as you can see, I have a little bit more space to put stuff. And I am going to embellish this pocket with some of the die cut assortment, as well as a border strip from the papers. So this will not be plain in the end. So that is how we will decorate that portion. Now I'm going to show you how we are going to place our accordion inside of the album. And then we'll move on to the decorating of the pages and this, and then the cover with the magnet closure. So for now, you have this, your accordion. Keep it folded like so. Now this back is going to become a pocket. So we're going to use score tape on this, and I think the score tape I have sitting here is 3/8. You could also use 1/2 inch. You just want to have enough space to slide something in here. So we're just going to go right along that edge, not all the way to the top. Just going to go as close to the edge as I possibly can. And then across the bottom. Making sure I don't have any hangover. It's okay if the tape overlaps because it will slip off of the other piece and it will still work, but we don't want it to hang off the edge and stick out. So I'm just going to burnish all that down. You could also do this with glue. However, if you do it with glue, be very cautious when you place it because you don't want that glue to seep out and not be able to use this as a tag pocket. So now I have all of that off. I'm going to set this on my scoreboard. And we know that we have 5 1/4 here, and this is 5. So you want to place this down so that there is 1/8 of an inch of space on each side and 1/4 of an inch on the top and the bottom, as well as possible. And I'm actually going to pull I have the spacer bars, and I'm sure this would be a wonderful way to use these spacer bars. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my 1/4 inch spacer at the top, and then I will know that I'm placing this in the right spot. Just going to go over 1/8. And there we go. I'm just going to pull this open, make sure that everything looks good, and it does. As you can see, that worked out great. So if you have these, wonderful. If you don't, they are available in the shop, countrycraftcreations.com. Just going to go ahead and put this, and I will show you that that is done. We're going to go ahead and burnish down that tape, glue, whatever it is that you use. And then as you can see, this is going to become a pocket. And that is why we did not put paper on the back of that one. So I will put this all together, and I will be back with another portion that shows you the magnet closure and the rest of the book. All right, so let's dive in and finish up this fun little folio. I've gone ahead off camera and I've cut some pieces. We already had our piece for the inside of the flap, which I will remind you is 2 1/8 by 5 3/8. And we're going to be using a magnet closure for that. And I'm actually, now that I think about it, oh yeah, that one's just a simple one. So now what I've done is I have taken this My Colors cardstock. It's called Boxwood, and it has this gorgeous green color, and then it has polka dots on it, which kind of coincides well with the polka dots in the Spring Awakenings paper. So you're going to need 2 of these, and I have cut these. These are going to be mats for the cover and the back of the folio. These are going to measure at 5 1/8 by 5 3/8. And these will be our mats. Now, the back one you will keep square. The front one, you're going to want to cut and then round the 2 right-hand corners so that it matches up here. And we're going to start with that one. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cover this. And then I will do the magnet closure, how I do it with you, and go through a couple of the little tuck spots and different pocket ideas for the inside. And then the rest I will leave up to your imagination to create however you like. I will flip through with you the one that I created for a different team. It was actually created for Graphic 45, but it is the same folio. This one is sized a little bit differently. And I'm actually going to go ahead and open this up so that I can see all of these pieces together and just make sure that I get this burnished down really nicely. My lighting seems a little off this morning. I'm not quite sure why that is. I have a giant ring light above me that is adjustable, and it's on its brightest setting, but for some reason my craft room seems a little gloomy this morning. So next I've cut from this paper. It has the bunnies on one side and the gorgeous stripes on the other. This piece is going to measure 5 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And again, you're going to round those 2 right corners, and I have used Vintage Photo Distress ink for that. And this is where we're going to put our first magnet. So I'm going to flip this back open. My accordion's going crazy here. So you have this here. What we want to do is we want to put our magnet in here. But I'm going to put it on top of this because this, well, no, that's not going there. Sorry. This is really thick paper. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to put it on the inside. So I'm going to grab a plus and a minus, and I'm just using the basic gray magnets here. And I think I'm actually going to use the larger ones this time. The small ones work. Any magnet will work, but I want this folio to be able to have quite a bit of ability to make it a little thicker. So let's just see here. I want this right about the middle of my flap. So I'm just going to peel that backing off of there, off of my magnet. And go ahead and stick that right about there in the middle. Now what I want to do is I want to go to the front page here, and this, like I was saying, this paper is quite thick. So instead of placing this underneath all these layers of paper, I'm going to sandwich it between our matte and also our this. Actually, I'm actually going to put this on, and then I have a border strip. I apologize, I forgot I did that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to place the piece of paper, the Decorative Spring Awakenings paper, on top of our mat. And just make sure you line this up as straight as possible, leaving that it's about 1/8 of an inch of space of your mat showing, whatever color you are using. If you choose to use this gorgeous My Colors cardstock or something else. And then I just want to make sure that I know where that magnet's going to go. So what I'm going to do is I've clipped them together. I've already clipped this one on with the sticky, and now I'm going to take the sticky off, and I'm going to close this over where I would like it to line up, right there. Then I'm going to pull them apart, and that gives me the spot where my magnet will go. Next, I have cut a piece of this gorgeous egg border that's on the cut apart sheet, and I have cut it to measure 5 1/4 by 1 inch, and I am going to use this as a way to cover my magnet. So, and it's a thinner than the cardstock. Now, I'm using the larger magnet, so if I had put it under all these layers, it would still work. I just prefer the aesthetic of putting it on the outside as well, so you don't have as many layers of paper to burnish over the top of that magnet. So we're just going to burnish our little border strip in there, and this was also inked on the edges. Try to get as much around that magnet as you can, and now you can see this will close our folio. So now we're just going to go ahead and put this paper that we had already cut previously over that magnet on this side. And like I said before, this is an Easter themed, spring themed folio. It doesn't have to be for Easter. I'm probably going to give this as an Easter gift, but you could use any of the paper collections to make this kind of a folio. The ones that I made previously were a dark and light challenge, and I did one in a lighter paper, and then I did the one with the Halloween themed paper for the dark theme, and they turned out super cute. So it's very easy to make these and give them as gifts. You can put gift cards in them. You can do so many things with these, and I love the style. So now you can see that's going to close our folio perfectly. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to flip this back open on its front. Remember, this is your front, this is your back, and this will be the square piece that you want to put on the back. And this is going to measure, again, 5 1/8 by 5 3/8. We're going to go ahead, I'm going to peel that little My Colors label off. I don't need that extra bulk. And these peel off really easily. I mean, I still do it quite gently because I don't want to rip my paper, especially after I've already cut it to the size that I want, as you can imagine. So we are just going to glue this to the back. Again, this is just a mat. And it is the boxwood, my colors with the dots. And if it is, I've had this in my stash for a little while, so I will double check and make sure that it is still available in the store at countrycraftcreations.com. And if it is, I will link it below. If not, then I do apologize. I had it and it worked really well with this paper, so I went with it. Now we have a mat using that same boxwood. And this mat measures, let me place it down and then I will get a better measurement for you. Since I got glue on it already and it's sticky, I'm just going to place that down there. And remember, again, I can't stress enough, make sure that when you're putting your papers on this, that you do not overlap your fold lines from your scoring, because then your album is not going to move properly. So that boxwood piece is 2 1/8 by 5 3/8. And then we have our other piece, which is the striped paper. So when it closes over the same paper. Again, this is going to be 2 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And just line that up as straight and neat as possible. Keep in mind you do have a magnet under there. And then our last piece is going to be that same striped paper. And then we'll have some little border strips we'll put on. So this is going to be 5 by 5 1/4. Again, the edges were inked. And this is also square. There are no rounded corners on our back side of our folio. All right. And I always like to have, you see me with the burlap cloth, I always like to have this because I don't like all that messy glue everywhere. So now I have these little green strips that I cut partially, but I did not cut them all the way. I'm going to use my scissors. I've scored them. So they are 3/8 of an inch. And I'm just going to cut these with my scissors. It's really difficult for me and maybe others to cut such a small piece on the cutter that I currently have. I'm thinking of investing in something a little bit better so that it's not so difficult. But I am just going to cut these. So these again are 3/8. Just like the ones we did on the inside, these are 3/8 of an inch wide. And then they are, I do believe 5 3/8 inches long, but I will double check for you. Five and a quarter. Is that right? Let me stick it on my scoreboard and make sure that that's 5 1/4. Actually, it is not 5 1/4. It's 5 3/8, I do believe. Yes, 5 3/8. So these are 3/8 of an inch wide by 5 3/8 inch long. I'm not quite sure where I got the 5 1/4 from. Apologize for that. And then we're just going to put these down on our little spines as neatly as you can. And we're going to leave those green. It's a nice contrast. I'm not going to add paper to the top of these. This will be the only paper that goes on there. Okay, so now we're going to have this fun little angled pocket, and it's done just like this one, only smaller. This is in our back. So when you flip open your folio, the page that we placed down as a pocket will have this little corner pocket, and then that's optional. It's also optional to make it as big as this one, so it goes from corner to corner. However you do it, just cut it the way that you like. My original pocket on this one, as you can see, was shorter, and I didn't round my corners here, so except for the bottom one. And that is just used for like a photo mat or something simple that you could put in here. So as you can see, that gives you this nice little tuck spot. And just keep in mind when you put this down, that you just put your glue on the very edge, going around and across the bottom. And the closer that you put it to the edge, the more space you're going to have here in your folio, in your tuck spot. So let's start with page 1, and I will show you some of the things that I chose to do with mine. So the first one, I have cut a piece of the green that coincides with the rest of the green here. I think that was the one that I cut for this. Let me just look. I have all these pieces of cut paper over here. I might actually use this gorgeous piece I have left over of the My Colors boxwood and just cut it down to that 4 7/8 of the paper. Whatever size you're making your folios, if you're doing a pocket like these, you want to make sure it's the same. So we're just going to go ahead and cut this down to that 4 7/8. And this is about 1 1/4 inches wide, which makes for a nice little tuck spot. I'm going to go ahead and round the right-hand corners with my crocodile at 1/2 inch so they line up better with the corners. If you put the straight on there, it's not going to work as well. And then we're just going to take glue, go right around as close to that edge as I can possibly get. And I'm just going to place that over where the paper is exactly. So we leave that nice ivory paper underneath. And then I'm just going to burnish that. And we will go back to this in a moment. Next, I am going to show you how I did a vertical belly band. And that one is going to be done with this gorgeous saying sentiment strip that is in the cut-aparts. And to do this, you just, when you cut this, you're going to make this one 4 7/8 inches, or excuse me, is it 4 7/8? Yes, 4 7/8 inches wide by the whatever width your border that you're working. This one happens to be 1 inch. And then you can do this with score tape as well. Just put some glue on both ends, as you can see there, and then place this down across the middle of your page. And line that up as straight as you can. And I try to let my glue tack down once I get it straight on here, and then hold the middle while burnishing. Otherwise your paper will slip all over the place, and then it's not lined up anymore. So now we have a nice little middle belly band for this page to slip something in. So that is that one. And on my original, I just did a flap over. This is 3 1/8 by 4 1/2, and it just slides right in there. And I will make a few of these with this paper when I finish this off. Next, I will go to this one here. And we're going to use that lovely egg border on this one. And this is going to be a belly band that goes sideways. And I did this because the eggs are on this as well. So again, we just take that glue right on the edges on both ends and place that belly band. Give yourself at least a good inch on this side so that your whatever you insert shows on both sides. And when you do your burnishing, when doing a vertical one like this, make sure that you pull down and pull up. That way that your paper doesn't slide all over the place. So now we have this nice little place for a photo mount. Now we're going to go to the back side. Okay, so on to the other side of the accordion. Let me just get mine in that same position, my original. So on the original here, I had a nice little bottom pocket, which I will show you how to make one of those. Just have to decide on paper for that. Not quite sure. Probably this gorgeous boxwood paper. We'll go ahead and use some of this. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cut a 4 7/8 by 2 inch piece of paper. So again, we have 2.5 by 4 7/8 with the bottoms rounded. We're just going to take our glue and go right around that outer edge of our paper. And we're going to place that right down on top of where we just line up. When it's rounded, it seems almost easier because you can really see where your paper is going to line it up with that paper below. And we will go back in and add a border strip here, use some of the die cuts. There's just lots of many things. I could do this little cute strip of pink here that I have left over. I'm just going to cut it down and fling it across my table. And we're just going to cut this down to 4 7/8. Ink it up a little. I will say I did not use any of the distress ink on the boxwood My Colors cardstock, just because it is such a dark paper and it doesn't have a white core. It is a dark core paper. So I didn't really need that. My main reasoning for doing all the inking is I don't like the white core showing when I'm doing a vintage project that has ivory in it. And a lot of paper on the market has a white core. So we're just going to put that right across and line it. If you're using a polka dotted paper like this boxwood, it's very easy to line up your dots with your paper. See how nice that looks? That's actually what I did on this one as well. So, I probably will do one more of the, we're going to go over to this side, and I'm just going to do one more of our belly bands here, a sideways one. So this has been inked, and it measures 1.5 by 4 7/8. Glue on the top, glue on the bottom, and we will do it right about here. Right. And there you have it. So, hi everyone. So now I just want to show you how I do my inserts when I make a folio such as this. Usually what I do is wait till the end, after I've added all my tuck spots, belly bands, wherever I plan to, pockets, of course, anywhere I plan to put my inserts. And there are just a bazillion ways that you can make inserts, but what I like to do is do it in the end. One, so I make sure I get the right sizes, and for two, so I can use up my scraps. This is a wonderful way to use all of your scraps as well as your die cut embellishments that come with most of these collections. You can also use fussy cuts if you're using a collection that does not have the die cuts like Tamara's collections. So this way, we don't want to make anything bigger than about 4.5. So I go through and see what I have as far as places that I need to put things. And then I just use whatever paper for a background, and I go through and I cut some. And I just want to show you a couple ideas. So here is one that I completed. And this will go in one of the little tuck spots. And what I've done here is I've just cut a piece of that same ivory heavyweight cardstock that I used for my album base. And I have cut a piece of it to measure 4 inches by 6 5/8 of an inch. And then that was folded in half, and I turned it this way, and I just rounded the bottom corners, added a little strip of this super pale pinkish color from my stash that looks like the inserts of the flowers on that beautiful background paper. And then, of course, this is one of the die cuts here that I put across the middle. Again, I cut a piece of paper that is, as you can see, it's not that big of a difference in tone. It's just enough. And this can be used as a photo mount, a place to write a little note. You could add a pocket to the bottom of this and slip a gift card in there. And then this will just go in whatever pocket in here. So now we have this wonderful little insert in our belly band. And I'm also going to look through. I have all these wonderful die cuts, and I'm thinking that since we have these cute little chickens on the front, that I'm going to go ahead and put this one on my belly band. And how I do that is just simply, I'm going to ink the edges, and I'm going to add glue to the belly band itself. I don't want it to go on the outside of it, so I'm just going to add a little bit of glue in a circle here and add my little chickens right onto that belly band. And now we have chickens here, and we have chickens on our little insert. How cute is that? I love it. I'll show that to you a little closer. Super easy way to embellish your pockets and all of these things. Another fun one is tags. Now, a couple of Tamara's collections do come with already tags that you can cut out. If they do not, you can always use a simple die or cut them yourself. I've used a die from my stash that made these lovely, and a strip of the paper that I had left over. And I am just going to, I've cut that in the shape of my tags and cut it down to size so it fits somewhat in the middle of the tag. This is not going to fill the entire space, obviously. It's smaller. I'm just going to add the glue to the back of that. And I'm going to place that somewhere in the middle of that tag so that the bottom is there, lined up pretty well. And you can put a hole in these or choose not to. Add a little twine, and these little tags that I made are going to go in this pocket here. So now we have these fun little tags that match the pocket background, and then you have that wonderful green contrast there. I go ahead and ink and glue my other little tag. I did make 2. You can put as many as you want. This portion of my video is just really to show you my ways of making inserts and how I combine that with utilizing as much of my scraps that I have left over so that I don't waste paper. I am not one that likes to waste any of these beautiful papers. So any way that I can use up my scraps and leftovers is a plus for me. So now we have those 2 fun little tags in there. So being as this pocket is a little bit bigger, I went ahead and I cut a larger one here, and this measures 3 1/4 across, and it was cut from a length of the ivory paper at not quite 10 inches. Right, just about right at that 10-inch mark, actually. So that makes it, yes, it's 10. And then I rounded the corners at the top and the bottom, and I added this fun piece along with some more of that really super pale pink cardstock. And then this just slides right here in this pocket and coincides really well with that background. So that's another one that you can create. Like I said, I have several. I'm going to also add something to this pocket over here with one of our lovely, I think I'm going to do something with this. I cut this from a Tim Holtz die that I had, and I'm just kind of looking through to see what pictures, what die cuts that came with the set that will fit in there. And I think I'm going to go with that little lammy there because he's just absolutely adorbs. And I don't need to ink this because you won't see the edges of this when I put the frame on top of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and place that down. And then we'll take our little frame. And if you don't have this, you can use any frame die that you have. This is a framelits, so it cuts and embosses at the same time, and it's just really pretty. I really like this die, and it's a Sizzix Tim Holtz die. So that gives us that, whoops, that fun little pop of color, little pink to go in with the pink there. So moving along, like I said, there are many different ways. You can also make just simple photo mats. So here we have this gorgeous piece of paper that I had left over, one of the cut aparts. I absolutely love this look. So I'm just going to go ahead and ink my edges to eliminate that white core. This is optional, of course. And I'm going to take my glue, and I am just going to mount this onto this piece of paper here, leaving that nice off-white outline. And I'm a little crooked here. Fix that. Okay. And now I have this nice photo mat that I can slide in as well. And I can just slide that right along with that one. So that is just some of the ways that I make embellishments for my pockets and different things of my mini albums. And I've shown most of the ways that you can, different ideas. Like I said, you can do simple photo mats. You could place this 4x4 on something in the back with a background like so. Just many things you can do to use up your scraps. So I hope that this helps you. Make some inserts, and also remember, if you're using up your scraps to make inserts, you can make as many as you want and use them later if you go back to this collection or a collection that's highly coordinating, or you can even use these leftovers. Like if this one is too tall and I don't find a spot for it, I could put this in my junk journal. It's beautiful. It says Spring Awakenings. It's gorgeous paper, and it would look really nice in my junk journal. It just paper clipped to a side of a page, so it won't go to waste. So I hope that's helped you. Until next time, you guys have a wonderful day.